What is this? A dip for ants? This is nothing. If you talk to one of the OG Bitcoiners who will tell you how it dropped from thousands down to a couple of hundred, those guys, they barely notice this stuff. But everybody is freaking out. And even the people who should know better, who know how Bitcoin works, because the fundamentals haven't changed. The retail era of Bitcoin is over. It's sure, the majority is still held by retail, but retail is no longer driving it, or at least not to the same extent as it used to. It's a gradual transition, probably. I agree that being called a toxic Bitcoin maxi is a compliment, but, nobody's perfect. And let's be honest, it's going up to the fundamentals are somewhat the same, so as long as the central banks keep printing money, and they will, gold is going to go up too, not to the same extent as Bitcoin, but, each to his own. To be frank, there's nothing wrong with gold. I mean, I like shiny yellow rock. Got myself.
So you invest, or you have gold?
I started off with gold, like I think many Bitcoiners have. So I got quite a stack, and I'm not going to lie, there is a certain emotional component to it. And there is also something about, being able to touch it. So I just couldn't bring myself to sell it. I stopped buying after. I occasionally do because, it just feels good. But the vast majority goes into Bitcoin, but I just can't get rid of it, and I like it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I agree that being called a toxic Bitcoin maxi is a compliment, but, nobody's perfect. And let's be honest, it's going up to the fundamentals are somewhat the same, so as long as the central banks keep printing money, and they will, gold is going to go up too, not to the same extent as Bitcoin, but, each to his own.
I mean, gold had a huge rise. This year has been a celebration year for gold.
Oh, absolutely. And recently, some bank, I don't know which one, has stated that they think gold is going to go up to $4,900 by the end of the year. I had to put out a post on X stating y'all are aware that the value of gold is not going to change. It's just the value of the dollar that's going to tank.
Yeah, I think, and then this is the difference a little bit, I feel like, still with gold and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin goes up even though if the dollar would stay the same, because there's so much adoption from Bitcoin. So there's the people finding out about Bitcoin, but this is all driven by the dollar being devalued, I guess.
There's also one key difference, and this is something that would, if the fundamentals are all that matters, that would make Bitcoin better than gold, is the stock-to-flow ratio. The stock-to-flow ratio of gold, I don't know, I think it was around 2%. Bitcoin is already lower than that. So Bitcoin stock-to-flow is shortly going down to or going up to 100. So there's nothing new going to come in at some point.
That's true, yeah. And also, we never know what technology brings with going to different planets and having robotics and all of that. I don't know, maybe
okay, I totally get that. I totally get what you're saying, but there is a caveat here. There is a lot of good arguments to support Bitcoin in favor of gold, a lot. But I need to be fair. This whole argument because, well, we can mine gold from some asteroid. It's not how it works, my man. That's not how it works, because you need to see it doesn't matter how much gold there is. What matters is how easily you can get it. So if somebody tells me that there is an asteroid that has, this is just a thought experiment, there is an asteroid that has $1,000 worth of gold right now. I know fiat is a bad measuring stick, but it has $1,000 worth of gold right now. But getting that gold here would cost us $5,000. I hate to be the bearer of ill. That argument isn't entirely honest.
Yeah, it's like the cost of getting it 100% plays a huge role, and this is just like I mean I guess like the only real argument there is you can verify it with Bitcoin that it's actually completely capped, and there's a little bit of uncertainty with gold that like there might be more of it.
Oh, and there is absolutely more of it. There is a lot more of it. Like every single study that we find, just the Earth's mantle is probably full with it. And the only question is, how easy is it to get it? I mean, we started off just getting it out of rivers. At some point, we started digging until we hit rock. Then we started blasting it. Then we started drilling for it. And it's just getting harder. But it has stayed at around 2%. So 2% of the existing stock is added each year.
I wonder if robotics might change that.
I'm not an engineer. I'm not a physicist. The standard definition, the easiest definition of a machine is anything that replaces or eases human labor. That's keep it simple and stupid. Anything that replaces or eases human labor. So yeah, better machines may be able to find gold faster. Absolutely. The question is, how much does it cost to build those machines? How much does it cost to deploy those machines, maintain those machines? What is the return on investment? That's the only thing that will determine whether those machines are used. And luckily, in the sector of gold, we might be lucky that the market will have a larger area of control than it used to have. I always like to refer back to the bellboy example, if you know it.
No, what is that?
Have you ever? How old are you?
27.
Yeah, you never saw that. I was once, when I was very young, in the US, and we were in a hotel which, as a curiosity, still had a bellboy. I mean, not a bellboy. Sorry, my bad, wrong term. A lift boy. Sorry, my English is a lift boy. So the guy or the girl who actually controls the elevator in order for it to arrive at the right floor. It's an experience. It's quite cool. What people don't know is that lift boys used to exist for quite a while after the technology to automate elevators was already there. They used to exist for quite a while afterwards. So why wasn't this technology implemented if it was there? Simple. Yeah, exactly. Simple, because the lift boy cost less than the machine would have cost. And then suddenly, in a very short amount of time, lift boys almost entirely disappeared. They disappeared, they got replaced by machines. Before that, they were ubiquitous. They were everywhere. If there was a lift, there was a lift boy. Now, if you look at the timeline when they started to disappear, there's a good case to be made that the reason why it happened was the introduction of higher minimum wages. It's not entirely sure. I'm not going to be absolute on this, and somebody will disprove me in the comments. That's quite all right. But there are those who theorize that higher minimum wages effectively priced out lift boys in favor of automation long before the automation in and of itself became viable enough, economically speaking. So the same here. Those machines, I'm pretty sure there are much better machines for gold digging already out. They're already out. I know this from other examples that I have seen in other industries, especially fast food. I've seen this. They're already out. The only reason they're not deployed yet is because human labor, the machines we have now, are more cost efficient.
That's fascinating. And actually, I've never seen a lift boy. Like, I was never in a lift where there was a lift boy. The closest thing to lift boy I've seen is in those fancy new buildings when you walk in and you say where you want to go, and then they get you the lift and they say like, go to this elevator, and you go in there and you don't even have to press anything because this elevator only goes to this thing, which is completely different.
It's not about the button. When I was really young, I was with my grandfather in New York. There was one building and it was a novelty. It was like a selling thing. It was losing the money. It was just no, it wasn't, because it was getting in customers, but it was an actual lever which controlled the elevator. And the guy had to make extremely sure that the elevator was right on the level or as close as possible. It was really cool. But yeah, that stuff is gone. Might make a comeback as a novelty.
Yeah, I was recently actually in a hotel where the level was off, so it like stopped, and you had like a small step to make.
Yeah,
because it was apparently not perfect. But yeah, that's like, so you actually saw like the lift boy doing the thing, and then they had to stop exactly at the level so people can actually walk.
Yeah, there were actually two levers too. One for like large movement, and then there was a smaller lever which was for very, very slight movement. So he would get close to the level where he wanted to be, and then there was still a gap, and then he used the small lever to slowly go right there and then stop.
Super interesting. I've definitely I heard about those lift boys, because whenever we talk about self-driving cars, those example comes up that people use lift boys. It's the same way people use now drivers, and at some point you just like go in a car, like you press where you want to go and the car just takes you, which was an interesting example for me. But other than that, I never heard from lift boys. It might be interesting to see a future where people ask me like, oh, how was it to like drive a car? I'm like, I don't know, like it has been a while. But yeah, maybe to get started with the Bitcoin topics, what is for you right now like the most interesting topic for you in Bitcoin, the thing that you look at the most, or what you hear the most?
What I hear the most is the most interesting, but not to me. What I hear about right now is everybody, for some reason or other, freaking out about the price drop. I mean, as of speaking right now, we've slipped below $90,000, and everyone and their mother is freaking out about it, and I don't know why. I don't know why. For several reasons. First of all, I have been around quite a while. But there are people who have been around longer, and what we've seen, this BS. What is this? A dip for ants? This is nothing. If you talk to one of the OG Bitcoiners who will tell you how it dropped from thousands down to a couple of hundred, those guys, they barely notice this stuff. But everybody is freaking out. And even the people who should know better, who know how Bitcoin works, because the fundamentals haven't changed. The fundamentals haven't changed. The math hasn't changed. The total supply hasn't changed. The code hasn't changed. So the only people who have a justification to freak out are the traders. They have a reason to choose. They're making a living off of this. But first of all, and I know I shouldn't say this, I hate traders. I know they have their justification in the market. I absolutely do. This is just personal. I hate traders. If your time horizon is longer than 5 years, you shouldn't care. Buy the dip.
And I always say, like, if your time horizon is shorter than that, you should lengthen your time horizon. Like under 5 years, like that's nothing. Even 5 years is kind of short.
Even 5 years is short. But in Bitcoin, if you look at the yearly gains, a time horizon of 2 years is enough to put you in the green. At least so far it has been.
And I always find it interesting because if you really understood Bitcoin, if you really know what Bitcoin is, the price dropping just means that you get more of the thing that is absolutely limited in supply, like absolutely capped in supply. So you get actually more of the thing you want. It's almost like, like Saleb always brings this Manhattan example of real estate on there. If you know everything will be built on this like plot of land, and all of a sudden this plot of land is there for discount, like you'll buy more of it with the same amount of dollars.
Yeah, I'm actually expecting my payday with quite a bit of anticipation in a couple of days because I'm going to dump some more into that. This is great.
100%. It's the biggest fear is always that the Bitcoin price rises before the payday. That's like the real thing going on.
No, if you want to see everybody who's freaking out, I might be wrong about this, but those who are freaking out, not a single one of them is institutional. All retail. I haven't seen any institution freaking out. BlackRock, they always say how many people sold their BlackRock ETF. Yeah, but BlackRock didn't sell any Bitcoin. One of the US states, I think Maine or something. Yeah, I don't know which one. They just started their own Bitcoin thing that they're not going to sell. The Czech central bank bought Bitcoin and they're not freaking out. Saudi Arabia might start mining soon. So none of the institutionals are freaking out. Do they know something that we don't? No, they're just more disciplined.
Yeah, and I think institutionals, they need more signatures to buy, so they need also more signatures to sell. And they are more of like, hey, let's make a plan, and then we just execute that plan. And the plan is not, hey, if it drops 20%, we completely panic and sell. that is not a plan.
Like I said, self-discipline. And let me tell you something. All those Bitcoin that are being sold now, and they're not all paper hands. There are some people who have every right and incentive to sell their Bitcoin, mainly the OGs, and some of them probably are. Each and every one of those Bitcoin that goes to one of those institutionals, it'll never see the light of day again. It'll never come out again, in my opinion. Like every single Bitcoin that gets sucked up by Sailor, by BlackRock, by El Salvador, by Metaplanet, all of those, each and every one of those Bitcoins is never going to come out again. They'll never part with it again.
Do you actually look at the institutional movement towards Bitcoin as we have now the ETF? We talked about it last time, I think, but now there seems to be more and more also Treasury companies coming at, even like smaller and medium-sized businesses, which isn't as public, but like the exchanges say like there's like a lot of them that actually have interest in Bitcoin.
I'll remind you of what I said the last time. I don't care so much about national governments. I care much more about businesses and small pension funds. And there's more and more and more and more of them because it's a good bet for them. So we might see a shift. Currently, how much of Bitcoin is sold by retail? 60%? 65%?
A lot of them, yeah, like 60,
that number is going to go down quite a bit, in my opinion. And they're all coming in and they're all starting to buy because they all know that long-term it's a good decision for them. So, like I said, the retail era of Bitcoin is over. It's sure the majority is still held by retail, but retail is no longer driving it, or at least not to the same extent as it used to. It's a gradual transition, probably.
Is that also maybe because we see a different price movement this cycle where there are no blow off top because they have reallocation rules and stuff like that?
Okay, I'm going to have to go on a tangent here. Regarding the price movement, if you ask me why is it, there is a correct answer. Just most people are not going to say it. The correct answer when you're asked why does the price go down is I don't know. Because you don't. I think no. If anyone tells you they know why the price is going down, they're either delusional or lying to you. Nobody knows. Now, having said that, because that answer is not very satisfying, there are different hypotheses. So there is one hypothesis that we're still in the bull run and this is just an intermediate dip. Fair enough. The second hypothesis is that the 4-year cycle is no more, that the price is now much more driven by other market factors, supply, demand, and so on and so forth. The third hypothesis is that, and this is something that has been discussed in with some other economists I know. This whole 4-year cycle thing is based on how many data points, how many halvings did we have? 4? 3? How many? 4?
Yeah, like 16 years, so four years each. So
4
like
data
about
points. 4 data points, really. So there is a chance. I'm not saying it's a bad hypothesis, the halving theory. There is a chance that it wasn't the halving at all. You can go back and you can look what else happened right at that time. Well, the other thing that happened always right at that time was massive liquidity coming into the market, not through the halving, through central banks. So I'm just saying, just because the halving happened, it doesn't mean it had to be the halving that caused this. Correlation does not equal causation, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying it must have been the liquidity. It might have been both. It might have been just liquidity and something else, but it's a good counter argument to make. And right now, the halving happened, but we haven't seen the same kind of liquidity influx immediately afterwards. Now, yes, the United States government has just decided to lower the interest rate, by 25 basis points, I think it was. Yeah, 25, which, in case you don't know what that means, it means money printer go brr. And it's going to start soon.
It's interesting when I think about the 4-year cycle, and it's always like in every cycle, there was this talk about like it will break. But for me, it's just a matter of time till it was always meant to be broken at some point. There's no way for me that there's this perfect 3 years up, 1 year down thing always going on, just because at some point it will have to break because of some sort of year. And even if you think about it going on for a long time, at some point people will be like, oh, I see already the 4-year cycle. That's why I'll start buying sooner or selling earlier. It's like at some point it's just like it's meant to be broken.
Okay. People, and you better talk to a biologist about this. I just remember it from some courses I took. We're pattern-seeking animals. We're pattern-seeking animals. And we often forget how large numbers work. I mean, I know several people who, they are economists, but they're stochastic economists. All they do is math all the time. All the time. And if, I know one who teaches this, and if you went to this guy and said, dude, I think I have a pattern here, and said, well, how many data points you have? 4. I mean, he would shove his foot so far up your rectum that you could chew off his toenails. 4 data points? 4? Really? And he's like, I have dismissed papers with over 2,000 data points after I ran it through my algorithm. Get the hell out of here. So this whole 4-year thing, it sounds good, it looks good, but from a, not saying it's wrong. All I'm saying is from a purely mathematical point of view, it doesn't prove jack. I can find the guy online who says, every time right before the Bitcoin halving, I sneezed. So I haven't sneezed in between. So every time I sneeze, I am pushing the Bitcoin price up. It would be not just as, but you get what I mean. Come on.
Yeah, I want to. I love it how you explain it. Very entertaining. I love it. Is for you the power law a better model? Is that something that you paid attention to?
I have looked at the power law. It's mathematically a lot more sound, but again, not enough time has passed to make it. The more time passes, the more it makes sense. At this point, it's a good model, but don't forget, all models are wrong, some are useful. Like, repeat these 2 things every day. I don't know, and all models are wrong, some are useful.
It's interesting. I mean, it's meant to be broken also because it's measured in the US dollar. I guess it's like at some point the US dollar breaks.
Yeah, but I mean, it's measured in US dollars, but to be fair, it does the same thing in every other currency. It did the same. It went up so much that in every other currency, it looks almost the same, except in 2 or 3 that are so low that it's just a straight line up.
Now, one thing that I really wanted to get to talking with you, because I think it's people really are controversial about that, and I dig more and more into it just to research about it, because I was always the opinion that I just want to have Bitcoin in self-custody. And there was in 2017 the ICO thing. There was a lot of altcoins going on, and I was always like, I don't like cryptos, I don't like altcoins. Now, there is now treasury companies, and a lot of the narrative seems to be similar almost to what I saw with altcoins, even though there is actual companies behind them and they're actually like doing something. I mean, there's different kind of treasury companies. I guess there's the strategy. I would give it a different category as the rest of them. Then there's the treasury companies that are just like profitable businesses that put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And then the treasury companies, I think they call them pure play, which means they just try to buy as much Bitcoin, as many Bitcoin as possible, and raise money through financial instruments. Now, for me, this all is like, oh, they all want my Bitcoin so they can buy more Bitcoin, which is the same thing that altcoin scammers wanted. They like, hey, buy my shitcoin so I can buy more Bitcoin. And now I feel like there's some treasury companies say like, hey, buy my stock so I can buy Bitcoin with it. How do you think about the treasury company space, and is it, are those, especially those pure plays, are those sustainable?
First of all, there is a fundamental difference between altcoins, shitcoins, and Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an actually scarce asset, while shitcoins are not. So, in one hand, you actually have a value trading for value, even if it's just for the value of the company, while in the other you have not. The second, if it's all about whether a company is trying to scam you or not, there's a very simple way to do that. Just ask yourself, with any of these companies, are they actually providing a good or a service? Are they actually providing a good or a service? Because that's the main driver, and the Bitcoin is just their insurance. So, my question to you, MicroStrategy, are they actually providing a good or service? Go online and check. Yes, they are. I think they are a software producer.
Yeah, business intelligence.
Yeah, business. They are providing a service. They actually do work, which other people pay for. The Bitcoin stuff so far is on the side. MetaPlanet, I think, as well. Now, if there is a company that just hands out shares in order to buy Bitcoin, they'd have to start somewhere. They'd have to start at some point. Now, how would they even get to that point without providing a good or a service?
Yeah, that's the thing. Have you looked into 21 Capital from Jack Mallers and the Cantor Fitzgerald people?
No, I haven't. What are they doing? I mean, what's the business model?
That's what I'm also asking, because
okay, if you don't know what the business model is, then don't say anything about it. It's like, don't invest in stuff you don't understand. Don't concern yourself with stuff. If I don't understand their business model, I would not give them money to buy Bitcoin. Like, show me the business model. Michael Saylor has shown us when he started, he was providing business intelligence, and then he convinced people to buy shares, blah, blah, to get Bitcoin. But it was still a business intelligence company. A pure Bitcoin treasury company, there's a name for that. It's called a bank. It's called a bank. I'm sorry, but that's a bank. There's nothing wrong with that. If they're telling me, listen, we're going to buy Bitcoin, give us money, we'll buy Bitcoin, we store it for you, that's an exchange. That's a bank. There's nothing wrong with that either. You'd have to take a look at the whole business model to see if it's scammy. I mean, that's the problem with FTX. I mean, I never looked into FTX because I don't concern myself with exchanges. I get stuff out as soon as I buy it. But if you look back and you presented their business model to any reputable economist, The red flags were everywhere. There were more than enough people who were calling it out long before it collapsed, just like more than enough people called out Bernie Madoff before it collapsed. I mean, there is this book. I suggest you read it. It's called Chasing Madoff by a guy named Harry Markopolos. And that book is really, really sad. It's really sad because this guy, Harry Markopolos, he effectively saw through Madoff from the beginning. And he was taking people's heads and pushing them into that pile of dog shit that was Bernie Madoff. Everything, nobody was listening for one of two reasons. The returns were just too good, or people said, yeah, we know he's a fraud, but he's not going to defraud us. Well, guess what? He did.
I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use simplemining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. With strategy, it's an interesting company. It's so different to anything else in the space because they had an actual business. But the treasury side just grew so big. If you think about the amount of purchasing power or the amount of market cap that strategy gained from being into Bitcoin and being the treasury company for Bitcoin is huge. And then like, how big would strategy be now if they just ignored Bitcoin? And so I'm interested because like, what if the whole thing of business intelligence is just like completely gone with strategy now? Would that still work, even though like it's a small part almost now of the thing, but it's like the only profit and only revenue source? I'm really like confused honestly with all those treasury companies till now, because I'm like, first of all, there are companies obviously that just buy other things and get. I mean, Berkshire Hathaway is kind of an example for that, but they are completely different. But the strategy side is interesting because like the treasury side of it and why people buy the stock is because of Bitcoin, because Saylor is on I think almost nobody that buys now strategy buys them for like the business intelligence. Most people don't even know like what they really do, even the investor base probably.
Okay, so would strategy be still marginally successful without Bitcoin? There's a correct answer to that. What is it?
Of course.
No. You know the
You,
answer.
what
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. So that's for one. Second, let's play this through. Yeah, you need to use that sentence a lot more often. It's honest. It implies you want to know. I use it all the time, and the best part is it really irks the hell out of some people, the right people. So let's assume that they become a pure Bitcoin treasury company. Well, first of all, Michael Saylor does not own all that Bitcoin. The shareholders do. So let's assume they become a pure Bitcoin treasury company. Okay. So they don't have to pay people anymore because Bitcoin goes up all the time. They can fire all of their employees. Now all the shareholders just own all the Bitcoin collectively. Now it's just a bunch of Bitcoin holders who own Bitcoin indirectly through a company. IDGAF. I don't give a, if that's how they want to own Bitcoin, if that ever happens and I was a shareholder, I'd call for a shareholder meeting and say, what for? Dissolve everything and give everyone their Bitcoin in accordance with the amount of shares they have.
Interesting.
I'm just saying, play it out. This is what, in my opinion, would happen. Now, as for the Bitcoin that Michael Saylor himself has, well, that's his. He can do whatever the hell he wants with it. Again, I mean, he once said that he's going to lose the keys before he dies and give the world a gift. Thanks, I guess.
Yeah, it's was also controversial that he said that, but like I get it. Yeah, thanks.
If I was him, come on, there's like 1,000 charitable causes which you could use. I mean, this is, as destroying value is not something good. I know the value of all the other Bitcoin would go up, but why not target that value for a cause that you find is okay? I mean, we should all give more to charity. If you have the resources, I think you should give to charity. I give to charity.
I'm really almost, when you think about the implications now, because it has never been really the case, but something that is strictly limited in the supply, because it's the first time we really can do that. And this is only when the whole world really uses it. Otherwise, it's just a gift to the Bitcoiners. But if in case, like in the situation that the whole world uses Bitcoin and you die and you take the keys with you, you then make it more scarce, and then in theory everything else goes up in value, not directly, but like also depends on like how many Bitcoin. If you have like half a Bitcoin, it doesn't make a huge difference. Then there's maybe it's better targeted at something charitable. But it's the first time ever possible. But I still think, as you said, it's probably better to target it at something that you think is valuable, that contributes and does something with the Bitcoin. Otherwise, it just sits there and makes it more scarce, which is okay. But I also didn't fully understand what he did there. It's like he can also do something with that.
Look, I get his reasoning. I totally do. And he has every right to do whatever he wants with this Bitcoin. I just think if I was in his position, I wanted more control over the value. And I mean, Bitcoin, just like every other investment, every other medium of exchange, you don't want it for itself. That is an absolute misconception. You don't want money. You don't even want Bitcoin. None of that. What you want at the very end are goods and services. That's it. Nothing else. If you couldn't get goods and services with it, it would be worthless. So you forego that value, the value of all the other Bitcoin rises, then you just giving other people the option to get more goods and services instead of being able to direct where those goods and services go.
Now, this brought an interesting. Do you have an opinion on like selling versus borrowing? I mean, I was in that situation and I decided for selling because I was like, I want to use Bitcoin as money and I don't want to like use fiat debt and all of that. But there's a lot of people say, hey, if I earn Bitcoin, if I have Bitcoin, I have the unique possibility to just like borrow against it versus like just using it as money.
Okay, several takes I have, in my opinion. Some of the people who are selling right now, and we know this from the wallet addresses, are the OG Bitcoiners. Now, ever since Bitcoin came out, ever since they started buying, that was 14 years ago. So some of these people are getting older. So if I was nearing that age, and I somehow I am a bit, why not take something out and enjoy it? I mean, what's the point to have it if you can't enjoy it? I mean, imagine you being an OG Bitcoiner, you got 2,000 coins or whatever, and you have a family, and you have a kid on the way. I want a house. I want a van. I want to have good time with the wife and the kids. I want to have family dinners. You know, the stuff that really matters. So they have every right to sell it. Now, as for borrowing, that's a good way to keep your Bitcoin while enjoying the fruits of it. But at some point, you're going to near the end of your life, and you better have a plan to pass those Bitcoins on to the next generation. So whether you want to borrow or sell, that's entirely up to you on what kind of life you have. If you don't have any children or whatever, if you have enough Bitcoin, I'd say like at the age of 90, I mean, I would probably sell at the age of 90 and then just enjoy the rest of my time. Now, as for using it as money, yes, Bitcoin was intended to be used as money. The Bitcoin white paper is very clear on that. Now, I know I am going to commit heresy now. I'm going to commit heresy, but not, I'm going to say this and it's going to blow up. Not everything that Satoshi Nakamoto said, despite its genius, is pure gospel. Okay? Like I had this one guy in the US who was a real Reagan fan. And then he was confronted with something that Reagan did or said and said, yeah, do you do that? No, because Reagan wasn't my God. He made mistakes. So using Bitcoin as a money in and of itself is probably not as practicable as Satoshi Nakamoto thought because, 10 minutes, mining fees, and so on. Now, I am more than happy to use second layers. The way I do it is if I can use Bitcoin, I do. So it circulates. And then I immediately buy it back. Spend and immediately buy back. Some time ago, I bought yet another cold wallet. I'm not going to say which one because I don't know if you're allowed to do commercials here. So I'm going to keep it that way. I bought a new cold wallet and they accepted Bitcoin. I paid in Bitcoin over the Lightning Network. And 5 minutes later, I was online on HODL. Now I said something. Okay, I was online on a platform. Don't use that just because I said so. And I bought the exact amount back with Bitcoin and back into my wallet address it went. Spend and buy back.
I like the thing that you said about Satoshi, because I see that all the time that people say, hey, but Sailor said, oh, hey, this guy that I worship said. And I always say like, okay, that's great that he said that, but you're just taking his opinion for granted and you don't think for yourself. So like, don't worship anyone it's fine if you look up to people, take role models, learn from other people, like 100%. That's a good thing. But just taking it for granted without proving and verifying for yourself and thinking about it and being a critical mind yourself, I hate that. Like I hate when people just say like, hey, this is that because he said so. And I'm like, oh yeah, but like I'm talking to you, not to him. It's like,
Look, when you're a child, it's okay to have heroes. But when you're a grown-up, I think the best you should strive for is role models, but no longer heroes, because people will inevitably disappoint you in one way or another. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they're human. In my whole life, there's only one hero I had, which I still have, and who has never disappointed me. Only one.
me.
No. Bud Spencer.
But Spencer.
Look, Bud Spencer is what peak male performance looks like. And there isn't a single thing you can do about it. He was the perfect human being, and he taught me that in most cases, a situation can be resolved by smacking someone in the head strong enough.
He's great.
He's the GOAT.
I only watched him a little bit, so I don't like know everything, but my dad loved him. My granddad loved him. And I think he's awesome. And I think I have to watch more of his stuff.
You should totally binge watch all his movies, his solo movies, the ones he had with Terence Hill. Absolute machine. This guy is perfection, the peak of evolution. I mean, he is the only one who never disappointed me, ever. Everyone else in my life who I had as a role model or as a hero at one point or another disappointed me in one way or another. And you realize that you're a grown-up when it doesn't bother you anymore because you accept that he's human. We all go through that with our own parents. You grow up thinking that as a child, you think your parents are essentially divine beings. And only later you figure out that they're just like you, usually scared, just going about their lives, not knowing what happens next, making the best of it. And maybe one day when you're in the same position, you can forgive them for all the ills that they visited upon you when you were little.
No way that he's Italian. That's crazy.
Terence Hill too. They're both Italian.
Interesting.
And his real name was Carlo Pedersoli.
Oh, it's a how is it called? An artist name?
Yes.
Okay, so like peak male performance, Bud Spencer. He's great. I love it.
When he died, Akira Toriyama even made a short comic strip about how he won against Son Goku. That was quite cool.
That's really cool. I love it. Now, one more thing. I think you told me before we started recording, maybe not, that you started using Linux and like you're no longer on the Windows thing. How do you feel about like privacy in general and like all of those things with like Windows and like Google?
It's all going to hell. It's all going to hell everywhere. I mean, we've seen it in the UK where they just introduced their form of the digital ID. Switzerland just voted yes on a very controversial vote to introduce their own EID. Europe is doing the same to some degree. Of course, it's all voluntary. Of course, it's all voluntary. It'll always be voluntary. Yeah. They're also introducing new legislation regarding Bitcoin, like CARF. I think it's called CARF. So your anonymity is going out the window with Bitcoin as well. And it is up to us to take the necessary steps in order to at least not make it as easy for them as they would want to have it. I mean, for me, whenever I buy Bitcoin, the first thing I do is it goes into my Wasabi wallet, and then I push it through a coin join, and then it goes into my cold wallet. It's just standard operating procedure at this point.
I'm very worried about those things, especially like, as you said, the voluntary thing, because I do think it's voluntary till it isn't.
Like I said this in a previous interview, if you don't have it already, you need to have a way out. And I am worried about anyone who says, well, I have, I don't know, German, Austrian, Italian citizenship, and that's enough for me. Look, it's great if it's enough for you, but you need to consider the option that it might not be enough in the future and that you need a way out. Now, me, I have 5 ways out at this point, and I might actually get another. Sao Tome and Principe is the newest contender in a citizenship by investment program, and they are the cheapest option right now. You can get a Sao Tome and Principe passport for you, for your wife, and 2 children for the low price of around $100,000 US. They're the lowest ones. They're new.
But what is this, like?
Sao
How do you
Tome
write on
and
me?
Principe.
So there's a small country.
It's an island off the coast of Africa. Mainly, it used to be a Portuguese colony. Objectively speaking, compared to Class A passports, is it a good passport? No. But it's a passport. Gives you options. You can get out. Also, if the rumors are true, Botswana, which is one of the more stable countries in Africa, is also trying to introduce one. Why not? All you need is a way out. Now, anyone who is considering this, I personally would start off with, yeah, exactly. You can type in Sao Tome and Principe citizenship by investment. They're the cheapest one right now. Like for a single person, it's $95,000.
Beautiful.
It's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So
it's something like if all goes to hell in the EU, like you might find me there in Sao Tome and Principe.
Well, like I said, if I posed this question before, as soon as you can afford it, it's something to consider. I recommend most people first go into their own genealogy. Like, you'd be surprised. I have a colleague who lives in the US. And I just brought this up to him on a whim. And he was like, oh, yeah, that'd be nice. But, you know, it's probably not a thing. My family has been here for ages. Blah, blah, blah. Have you checked? Please check. So turns out that actually he has grandparents from Italy and Ireland. Italy, they just tightened their own stuff. So that was no longer an option, but he is currently in the process of getting Irish citizenship. The whole thing took less than 3 months. Lawyer is pushing it through, and if everything goes well, in about 2 months, he'll be an Irish citizen. And so will his daughter be. So he immediately gained access to the whole Schengen area. He can go to 2 places. His daughter no longer has to worry about college because, unlike in the US, where the unholy alliance between government debt and university administrators has led to a massive rise in tuition fees, that's not the same in Ireland. So that one is checked off as well, all because I told him to check. And that's where anonymity comes in. If you stay in your country of origin, and let's say you go into retirement, and your Bitcoin was well enough hidden that they couldn't find it, which is still a possibility. It's still possible to do so. Peer-to-peer transactions are still possible. And you start living off your Bitcoin, well, then the government is going to come and say, hey, where's all that money coming from? But if you turn, I don't know, 60, 65, and you decide, well, I'm retired now, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave to another country. You just arrive there, and usually their assumption just is, well, he came with all he got, not our problem. And there you declare everything, and you're golden. I know several people who have done this with Latin American countries. Not going to name any names. One of them is a citizen of a European country, of an EU country. He turned 55 last year, and he just decided, I'm going to go early retirement. This guy, too, bought Bitcoin during the past 10 years, always peer-to-peer, because he's paranoid, and rightly so. He, too, There's a standard operating procedure. Push it through a coin join on Wasabi wallet and then into your cold wallet. It'll obfuscate everything pretty good. Not perfect, but well enough to leave reasonable doubt. He packed everything, told his government, look, I am moving. He moved to another country, not going to say where. It's either in Latin America or Asia. Pick your poison. And there, he just cashed everything out. Nobody is asking questions. Nobody, because he's out of the jurisdiction of one country. He's firmly in the jurisdiction of another. One country has no longer a claim on him, and the other jurisdiction is just happy that he's there. Of course, this is not financial advice. I am not recommending anyone do anything criminal. Please pay all your taxes in accordance with the laws of your country.
I have at the end of my episode now a short disclaimer for all the things, and I didn't want to say it myself, so I made AI Robin say it for me. This reminded me just of that.
No, here's the thing. Everything I just said, there's nothing criminal about it. You can still declare everything without telling them where it is. It's all about privacy, not about fraud. Everything I said before, it's not about what you do with your tax form. I suggest you fill out your tax form completely honestly. It's about them not knowing where it is because situations can change. And if they say tomorrow, XYZ is now the law and we want it, then at the very least you have some plausible deniability. Because what is legal today may not be legal tomorrow, and you may not agree with that. Now, luckily, laws need some time and need to be discussed publicly, so people usually can prepare for that.
That's the only reason why I still pay attention to politics, because I'm interested in what they're implementing, because like it affects me directly. That's why I'm otherwise I would just say goodbye and don't watch any politics.
Yeah, if you want to get depressed real quick, just watch the news, C-SPAN, and other stuff like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I asked each and every one of my returning guests, and I think you're now, the third time already on the podcast, a question at the end, or like almost at the end. What have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance on the podcast?
I learned that using Linux makes me objectively a better person. I am
a lot of Linux people will
superior now to people who use Windows or Mac. I mean, I am more valuable. I'm actually above them in the same sense that Nietzsche described the Übermensch.
I have to clip that. That is freaking awesome.
No, Linux makes you better. It's stronger. It's faster. It's better. It's Linux, man. Like being called a toxic Linux user is just as much of a compliment as being called a toxic Bitcoin maximalist. Because it's about privacy. And privacy is not just about your Bitcoin. Bitcoin demands privacy in order for it to work for you. But if everything around it isn't private and you don't use it, you're just opening yourself up to a variety of different attack vectors which you do not need. For example, here in Switzerland, they just got the EID. And I think it's somewhere described in the law that you always need, it's not mandatory, and you need to offer a paper version, a non-EID version. Well, guess what? That's what I'm going to use. I will not get an EID. Don't need it. Don't see why. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. You like it? You use it. Go for you. I'm glad for you.
How's actually Switzerland developing? I hear from some people from Swiss that saying like, oh, they are getting closer and closer to what actually the EU is doing, and they are no longer like that.
Okay, usually Switzerland is tagging behind the EU like 10 years in terms of retardation. But every now and then they decide, why don't we take a swing at it? And right now there is a new law being discussed about end-to-end encryption and about the provision of access keys. I haven't completely read it, but it's bad enough that one of the best companies I have ever had the good fortune to profit from, Proton, is already preparing to move out of Switzerland in case that law actually gets signed. If you type in Switzerland new law encryption, you'll find it. It's basically about how encryption services now need to provide the keys to the government upon request. Now, there are some caveats which people always say, oh, it's not that bad. For example, true end-to-end encryption services are exempt because the companies don't hold the keys themselves. But there's other stuff in there that, like, everybody who uses a VPN, I don't know if it's true, this is what I heard. Everybody who offers a VPN now needs to verify the identity of the VPN user. They need to log the VPN and so on. It's a whole brouhaha of different stuff, and it's all very concerning. And my hope is that it doesn't get passed. I hope that it doesn't get passed, because this would out-retard the EU by leaps and bounds. If it does get accepted, then I will have to wait until more tech-savvy YouTubers analyze it and then tell me what my options are to circumvent it. But in comparison, Switzerland is still a good alternative for people who live in the EU. It's still a good, because the only question that matters in economics, said this before, is compared to what? It's the only question that matters, compared to what? You can now pretend to be an economist. You just walk around the room, and whenever somebody drops a subjective value statement like, this is tall, this is big, this is expensive, this is cheap, you just immediately go in and say, well, yes, but compared to what? And oh, yes, of course, compared to what? So you can now pretend to be an economist, because it's the only question that matters. Is Switzerland still good for privacy? Compared to what? The EU? Definitely.
I love it. We have an intro to the podcast, as you know, where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asks you, which one of those cities would you go first if you haven't been to any of those? If you have been to all of them, which one is the best? Vienna, Prague, or Budapest?
Okay, I've been to all three of them. And look at my name, I'd go to Budapest.
This is great. I haven't been into Budapest so long. I was like a 10-year-old kid when I was the last time there. Vienna and Prague every year. I mean, Vienna, I currently live.
I have been going to Budapest. I'm over 40 now. I've been going there since I was a baby, because my family was from there. During the first couple of years, it was a bit harder because the Cold War was still going on. But it's amazing how the city has changed. It's amazing how it has changed. And right now, it's actually better in many aspects than Western cities. I have a lot to do with Asian tourist groups that come in through Switzerland. And if you talk to them, many of them are like, we're no longer visiting Western Europe. We're no longer interested in London or Berlin, any of those places. And if you ask them, and they might be a little bit misinformed about the prevalence, but basically they're saying, well, I don't feel like getting robbed and stabbed in broad daylight after asking somebody for directions. And they're all saying, we're going to Prague, we're going to Warsaw, we're going to Budapest, because it's nice and clean and safe. Imagine that.
Prague is cool also. Have you been
Prague is very nice. Been there. Prague is very nice. The beer is still quite cheap, so absolutely something for me.
Yeah, it's when you drive from Switzerland to Prague and you pass through Austria, it's like Austria is half the price of Switzerland, and then Prague is half the price of Austria, kind of a thing. It's like the really nice, really cool. Thank you so much, Mike, for being on. Was really cool having you on. For me, I freaking love your takes. I hope the audience also loves them as much as I do. Before I let you go, I think, how did we do it last time? I think you left an email or something like that where people can contact you, or like the comment section. I think we made it with the comments that if they have something for you,
they can stuff in the comment section. Otherwise, they can reach me at just write bald guy Bitcoin in one word, bald guy Bitcoin at advers.ch. At advers.ch. If anyone's interested. But there are other people who know a lot more than me. But I'll try to answer if anyone's interested.
Thank you so much, Mike, or Bald Guy Bitcoin, for being on the show. Was lovely, and also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye bye. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.